Welcome to Apexaraz, a place to think differently. This is Elias and Mira, and we're here to continue our exploration of Arthur Schopenhauer's The Wisdom of Life.
Indeed. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 4, which deals with position, or a man's place in the estimation of others. We'll kick things off with Section Ein, which is all about reputation.
Okay, reputation. So we're going to unpack just how much what other people think of us actually affects our happiness, or maybe how much Schopenhauer thinks it affects us.
Exactly. We'll look at reputation itself, why we seem to care so much, and crucially, the contrast between what we genuinely are inside versus, well, how we look to everyone else.
And that leads into related ideas too, doesn't it? Like pride and then the different kinds of honor.
Right. Civic honor, official honor, sexual honor. He gets quite specific. And even that very particular concept of knightly honor, the point d'honneur.
Which sounds historical.
Oh, it is. And we'll round it all off with a discussion on fame. So join us as we explore these deep ideas and timeless truths. Stay with us for more thought-provoking discussions.
And remember, you can connect with Apexaraz on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, X, and Threads.
Okay, let's jump right in with reputation. Schopenhauer starts by pointing out what he calls this peculiar weakness of human nature.
Which is?
This excessive concern with the opinions of others. He argues straight away that, what other people think doesn't actually hold intrinsic value for our own happiness.
It feels counterintuitive, though, doesn't it? We're kind of wired for approval.
We absolutely are. He uses this analogy, it's quite vivid, of stroking a cat. The cat purrs automatically. He says we're similar with the praise. We get this automatic pleasure, even if we suspect it's insincere.
Huh, okay. So even fake praise feels good.
Apparently so, if it boosts our self-importance.
Yeah.
And the flip side is true too. Any slight, any criticism can cause real pain. He's basically saying our modern obsession with likes and validation isn't new. It's a deep-seated, almost primal thing, but ultimately, it's a misdirection.
A misdirection. I like that. And he takes it further, suggesting this feeling of honor, which is so tied to needing that positive feedback, can sometimes replace actual morality for people.
Yes. He concedes it might have some social utility, keeping people in line perhaps, but, and this is the core point, it fundamentally disturbs and prejudices our peace of mind and our independence.
Those things he values most for happiness.
Precisely. So constantly needing approval is like letting strangers drive your emotional state.
Which leads him to that key comparison, what a person is in and for himself versus what they are in the eyes of others.
Right. The first is everything internal personality, health, wealth, everything within our own consciousness. The second, that exists only in other people's minds. It's their perception of us.
And that's such a critical difference. He insists their opinions don't hit our core directly. They only influence us through, well, how people act towards us based on those opinions.
And even then, their opinions should really only matter if they prompt us to genuinely improve ourselves internally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just noise.
Focus on the signal, not the noise.
Yeah. He actually calls for indifference towards others' opinions, acknowledges it's tough, but gives reasons. They're often superficial, narrow, mean-spirited, just plain wrong or perverse.
He doesn't mince words.
Not at all. He points out how quick people are to speak ill of others when there's no fear of comeback.
That example he uses is brutal about how the greatest minds might just get shrugged off by half a dozen blockheads. Makes you wonder why we give those opinions so much power.
Exactly. Why let ignorance or malice define your worth? He says people who base their happiness solely on others' opinions are in a very bad way.
Because the real foundation is internal.
Yes, our health, our mental state, our independence, freedom from worry, these are the solid ground, not shifting opinions or applause.
It definitely puts that saying honor is dearer than life itself into perspective. He sees it as maybe an exaggeration of how much reputation matters for just getting by in the world.
Right. But then he really laments what he calls the lamentable folly of spending our lives chasing esteem. Think about the striving for jobs, titles, money, even knowledge or art. Often, the ultimate goal is just respect from others.
And he thinks this is a huge common error, maybe part of human nature or society reinforcing it.
Probably both. He sees it everywhere, from being scared of gossip to, extreme cases like Virginia sacrificing his daughter for honor or people sacrificing everything for posthumous glory.
Wow. So this need for approval, while maybe useful for social control,
It's damaging to individual happiness. He calls it a reversal of the natural order, valuing what's in other people's heads more than our own consciousness. That's vanity, for him,
Mhm.
trying to get a direct result, happiness, from something totally indirect like someone else's thought.
And think of the energy we waste on it. The anxiety about our image.
Totally. He links it all: self-importance, vanity, showing off, luxury, even pride, he says, often boils down to anxiety about what people will say. A feeling that sticks with us, maybe even gets stronger as we age.
Those examples he gives are chilling. That murderer, Thomas Wicks, fussing about appearing bravely on the scaffold.
It's deeply unsettling, isn't it? Or criminals planning their final speeches. It shows how incredibly deep this drive for external validation runs, even at the point of death.
And these extremes, he suggests, just magnify our everyday worries.
Pretty much. So many of our anxieties, our efforts, even envy and hatred, trace back to what will people say?
So, the solution, what's the takeaway?
He argues that if we could just dial back this impulse, not eliminate it, but reduce it, our peace of mind and contentment would soar. It's hard, though. He quotes Tacitus. The lust of fame is the last that a wise man shakes off.
A tough habit to break.
But not impossible. The path, he suggests, is recognizing the folly, understanding that most opinions are flawed, biased, maybe even malicious, and just not worth the constant worry. Their real impact is limited, often negative, and honor's value is only indirect.
And if we manage that, what are the benefits?
He lists them: more inner peace, cheerfulness, self-confidence, less embarrassment. He even suggests a quieter life helps, escaping the constant judgment, allowing focus on oneself.
Basically, stop chasing shadows and focus on the real stuff.
Easier said than done, but that's the goal.
Okay, let's shift to pride. He draws a really clear line between pride and vanity. What's the key difference for him?
Pride, Schopenhauer says, is internal. It's a settled conviction of one's own paramount worth in some particular respect. You genuinely believe in your value.
Okay, and vanity.
Vanity is external. It's the desire to make others believe in your worth. Often, he suggests, because you secretly hope their belief will convince you too. It's all about seeking external validation.
So pride is, I know I'm good. Vanity is, please tell me I'm good.
That sums it up nicely. He also notes proud people tend to be quiet, taciturn even, while vain people are talkative, constantly trying to advertise themselves.
Ironically, he thinks the vain person might get a better reception by just being quiet.
Yes. True pride, he says, is this firm, unshakable conviction. It might be based on conventional things, even mistaken things, but the conviction itself is genuine, internal. It's not a performance.
And you can't just decide to be proud.
No, it stems from conviction, not willpower. And he sees vanity as the biggest obstacle to real pride, because vanity is always looking outward for approval.
It's interesting how he handles the criticism pride often gets.
Yeah, he suggests it often comes from people who, frankly, have nothing to be proud of.
And he actually advises people with genuine merit not to be overly modest.
He does. He warns that if you downplay your strengths too much, people might just take you at your word and treat you as ordinary. He quotes Horace, "Usurp the fame you have deserved." It's almost like saying, own it.
That's quite provocative. Don't hide your light under a bushel, essentially. He even says modesty helps fools because it creates a sort of lowest common denominator society.
It's a harsh take. And then his views on national pride are equally pointed.
He calls it the cheapest sort.
Yes. Basically, if you have nothing personal to be proud of, you latch on to your nation. He thinks more intelligent people are quicker to see their own country's flaws.
And he throws in some specific digs, mentioning English bigotry, German honesty. It feels quite dated, but the point is clear.
Very clear. Lichtenberg's question about why people pretend to be French or English but not German really underscores his point about perceived value.
Ultimately, individuality trumps nationality for him.
Absolutely. National character, he says, is just the local flavor of human pettiness. Nations mock each other, and they're all probably right to some extent.
Okay, moving on to rank. He seems to dismiss this pretty quickly.
He does, yeah. Considers it purely conventional, a sham that gets artificial respect. He compares orders, like medals and titles, to bills of exchange drawn on public opinion. Their value depends entirely on the issuer's credibility.
But he admits they can be useful for the state.
As substitutes for real rewards, maybe. And as a way to signal to the masses, this person did something.
But they lose value easily.
If handed out too freely or unjustly, yes. Like a currency being devalued.
Yeah.
And he thinks putting for distinguished service on an order is just redundant. That should be the whole point.
So rank is mostly performance, mainly impressive to the Philistines, as he calls them. Right, let's tackle the big one. Honor.
Yes. He calls this a much larger question.
Yeah.
And more difficult to discuss. He defines it in two ways. Objectively, it's what others think we're worth. Subjectively, it's how much we care about that opinion. Being honorable means having a positive social influence, though not necessarily a purely moral one.
And he sees feelings of honor and shame as pretty universal.
Essential for social life, yes. Except maybe for the utterly depraved. He says we need two things to be useful members of society: meet general expectations and fulfill our specific role or position.
But again, it comes back to others' views.
Always. Our usefulness is judged by others, which drives us to make a good impression. That feeling of shame, the blushing, that's our innate sensitivity to losing esteem.
He also mentions that feeling respected gives us courage.
Yeah, a sense of collective backing. Then he breaks honor down: civic, official, and sexual.
Let's start with civic honor.
This is the broadest kind. It's the basic assumption that we'll respect others' rights, play fair, follow the law. It's the foundation for peaceful interaction.
And its ultimate basis is.
The idea that moral character is pretty stable. One bad act suggests more might follow. He links this to the English meaning of character as reputation or credit.
So lose your civic honor and it's hard to get back, unless it was just slander.
Exactly. Slander can be fought legally, but a genuine breach of trust is seen as permanent. He notes it started with the middle classes, but applies to everyone now.
He also contrasts honor and fame here.
Right. Honor is about meeting expected standards, things you shouldn't fail at. Fame is about exceptional qualities, things you achieve. You don't lose fame, you just don't achieve it. You lose honor, which results in shame.
And honor is active, based on what we do.
Yes, entirely within our control, he argues, unlike some other forms we'll get to. Slander is the only external attack, countered by proving it false. Respect for age comes from a lifetime of maintaining this honor.
But its value is still indirect, affecting how others treat us.
Yes, crucial for social trust, but indirect. He cites ancient philosophers agreeing it's valuable for its usefulness, and again dismisses honor is dearer than life as an exaggeration.
Okay, what about official honor?
This is simpler. The general belief that someone in an official role has the right qualities for the job. The higher the office, the greater the expected fitness, moral and intellectual, and thus the greater the honor, titles, deference, etc.
So rank implies a certain level of honor.
Generally, yes, though public perception plays a role. Officials are expected to uphold the respect due to their office through their conduct. He includes professionals like doctors and lawyers here too, and military honor the belief in their courage, loyalty, and capability.
Right. Now, sexual honor. He flags this as needing more analysis.
Indeed. He approaches it from a utilitarian standpoint, dividing it into women's and men's, seeing women's as more critical due to historical dependence.
Female honor for him is about perceived purity before marriage and fidelity within it.
Yes. He argues its importance stems from women's traditional reliance on men for provision. This led to a kind of social contract. Men provide, women maintain fidelity and manage the household. This, he claims, is the basis of female well-being in that structure.
And women have a collective interest, an esprit de corps.
To secure their position with men who held the power and resources, he controversially suggests the rule against premarital sex was key to this forcing men into commitment and provision.
Wow. That's a very specific historical interpretation.
It is. And he argues that breaking this rule, either before or during marriage, was seen as betraying the entire female race, leading to ostracism. But crucially, he insists this honor has only relative value, not absolute. It's a means to an end, provision, not an end in itself.
Which makes him question those extreme acts, like Lucretia's suicide.
Exactly. He feels they lose sight of the goal by focusing too rigidly on the means. He even suggests its value might be purely conventional, citing historical variations. He also notes exceptions for royal marriages based on politics.
And the lack of natural origin is shown by extreme sacrifices.
Child murder, suicide, things done in its name. The faith involved is assumed, not sworn. A girl's mistake, he says, has worse practical consequences for her than the moral weight of the act itself.
And men's honor in this?
Their corresponding esprit de corps demands they enforce the term's exclusive possession. So a man's honor requires punishing infidelity, at least by separation. Condoning it brings shame, though less than a woman faces. He mentions Othello and Calderon plays.
And punishment focuses on the wife.
Primarily, yes, which he thinks reinforces its origin in this male group interest idea. Okay, ready for knightly honor.
The poindon, yeah. Sounds dramatic.
It is, and Schopenhauer pulls no punches. He says it's totally different, unknown outside Christian Europe's upper classes post-Middle Ages. Its principles can even contradict other forms of honor.
Okay, what are its main features?
First, it's not about what people really think of you, only about whether they express a negative opinion. An insult, even from a fool, must be challenged or retracted. It's about forcing respect, not earning it.
So it's based on what you suffer insults, not what you do?
Exactly. Your honor is totally vulnerable to anyone's words. An insult is taken as truth until it's washed away, often violently, risking life, freedom, everything. Even the base person can be dishonored by the worst.
And worthless people enjoy insulting the worthy?
He thinks so. An insult demands a bloody response. It stems, he believes, from medieval trials where the accused had to prove innocence, often leading to trial by combat, a duel. Knightly honor kept the disgrace part, but dropped the proof.
So being called a liar requires a fight, and a physical blow is even worse.
A slap or blow is catastrophic, curable only by serious violence. Third, it's disconnected from actual character. Honor is restored by the duel itself. Against those outside the code, you can just retaliate immediately and excessively the advantage.
Fourth point, rudeness equals being right.
Pretty much. If you can't win an argument with intellect, you resort to insults. The ruder person wins. Knowledge, wit, judgment all bow down to insolence. This, ironically, was supposed to ennoble society.
So fifth, the ultimate appeal is just brute force.
Physical might. Rudeness is just a prelude to violence. Knightly honor is the glory of might.
And sixth, what about debts and promises?
Civic honor values fulfilling obligations. Knightly honor. Only the word of honor matters, and even that's flexible via dueling. And crucially, gambling debts, debts of honor. Other debts, he snidely remarks, can be ignored.
His overall verdict is scathing.
Utterly. Strange, savage, ridiculous, artificial. He contrasts it sharply with the ancient world Greeks. Romans who valued actions saw blows as mere injuries and lacked the biggest point to honor. Think of Themistocles. Strike, but hear me.
Socrates getting kicked and shrugging it off.
Exactly. Ancients sought legal remedies for assault, or just despised it. Knightly honor turns a trivial blow into a tragedy. He argues it's purely a product of the Middle Ages valuing fists over brains, influenced by priestcraft and chivalry, the duel as judgment of God.
So its main purpose is just intimidation.
Using the threat of violence to extort the appearance of respect you can't earn. It breeds a society based on fear, stiffness, constant vigilance over words. He calls it a minotaur demanding sacrifices.
He even proposes a punishment for dueling.
12 strokes with a stick. He argues governments don't really want to stop it because it helps maintain social hierarchy and compensates for low pay for officials and officers.
And national honor is a mix of civic and knightly.
Yeah, needing both trust, like civic, and fear, like knightly, enforced by might, since there's no higher court.
Okay, finally fame.
The immortal twin of mortal honor.
Right. Honor is about expected qualities, fame about extraordinary ones. Honor is claimed, fame is given. Honor is local, fame travels. Everyone wants honor, few get fame.
And the two paths are actions and works. Actions need a great heart, works a great head. But actions are fleeting, their influence limited. Works, especially written ones, endure. Alexander the Great's name echoes, but Plato, Homer, they still live through their works.
So works are superior to actions in terms of lasting impact.
I definitely think so. Permanent, universal significance, born of intellect, not just fleeting will like actions. Fame from action starts loud, fades fast. Fame from work starts slow, grows, endures for centuries.
Actions also depend more on chance.
Yes, circumstances play a huge role. Works depend only on the creator. Judging works is hard. Good critics are rare, but time helps. Works survive directly, memories of actions distort. Time erodes prejudice against works.
He mentions envy again.
The shadow of merit. He knows how new talent is often ignored or suppressed. True fame grows slowly, like an oak. Quick fame is often shallow. False fame disappears quickly.
Why the slow growth?
Because truly original work aimed at posterity feels alien to contemporaries. It doesn't cater to the moment. People prefer what serves the present. History shows the greatest works were often initially dismissed.
And we only really understand what's like ourselves.
That's his point. Dull minds like dull things. Great ideas need great minds to receive them. He quotes several sources on the folly of speaking wisdom to fools.
Plus, there's envy. New fame makes others feel diminished.
Exactly. Another's praise is one's own depreciation, as Goethe put it. Mediocrity bands together against excellence. Even the already famous can resent newcomers. Honor is easier to get, it's assumed until lost. Fame is harder the more people have it.
especially for difficult scholarly work.
Yes, the audience is tiny. Those driven just by ambition rarely create immortal works. True creators often defy popular taste. Fame avoids the seeker, he suggests.
Hard to gain, easy to keep, unlike honor.
True fame, yes, because it's tied to the undying work. If it vanishes, it was probably spurious, like Hegel's clique-driven fame, he argues. But fame is still relative. Its real value is in deserving it, having the great heart or head.
So don't depend on others' opinions for your self-worth.
Absolutely not. Our own being matters most. Others' heads are a sorry place to lodge one's happiness. The Temple of Fame has dubious company anyway, generals, charlatans.
Yeah.
Often their recognition is more sincere than for true intellect.
Fame is just a treat for vanity.
A rare morsel, strongest for those desperate for it. But true merit doesn't need it. The happiness is in the creating, the inner worth, which consoles for lack of fame. Envy targets the real thing, not just being thought great.
Inner worth can't be taken away. Fame can.
Precisely. Posthumous fame doesn't benefit the dead recipient, but they were happy because they had the great qualities and could develop them. Only heartfelt work wins lasting fame.
Lifetime fame is just luck.
Largely chance and unimportant. Most people follow authority, not their own judgment. Contemporary fame is often just an echo chamber, like a musician playing for a deaf audience.
True fame comes late, if at all.
Often, yes. A consolation for old age, seeing your youthful work stay young.
He then talks about different kinds of intellectual fame based on the facts used.
Yes. Using common, universal facts, human nature, etc., offers the widest potential fame, but needs the most genius to say something new. Using obscure, specialized facts limits the audience, but makes discovery easier. Fewer rivals.
Fame from just discovering hard-to-access facts, like travel.
Requires less intellect, he thinks. Telling what you saw is easier than explaining complex ideas.
His final advice for great minds.
Focus on the big picture nature, humanity. Don't get lost in obscure details just to avoid competition. Everyday life has enough material for profound work that many can appreciate. There's a big difference between a specialist and a philosopher or a poet dealing with universal truths. So to wrap up, we've journeyed through Schopenhauer's thoughts on how we position ourselves in the eyes of others, from the pitfalls seeking validation.
To the nuances between pride and vanity, the different shades of honor, civic, official, sexual.
But really peculiar and frankly brutal code of knightly honor.
And finally, the complex, often delayed nature of true fame versus fleeting recognition.
And all this fits into his broader quest for, well, the wisdom of life. Finding ways to live with more understanding and hopefully more contentment.
He keeps bringing us back, doesn't he? Back to the idea that real value, real happiness, isn't out there in other people's applause.
It's found within, in cultivating our own inner resources, our own character, our own understanding.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about today is, how much weight do you give to the opinions of others? Where are you investing your energy in chasing that external nod or building something solid inside?
That's the core question, really. Consider what truly endures. Is it the fleeting praise, the shifting opinions, or is it the quiet, steady work of cultivating your own inner worth?
A powerful thought to end on.
Indeed. And if you found this deep dive valuable, please do follow Apexerez. We'll be back with more explorations of ideas that challenge us to think differently.